Hey guys, so there's a few audio issues on the map making video, so I'm going to do some additional voiceover as we go through it. I'm going to leave the original video voice in where it's good, but I'm also planning on speeding it up in places anyway because there's a lot of repetitive stuff, so you don't need to see how I do all the repetitive stuff. But hopefully, be some use to you guys. See you at the end. Okay, so I started working on the map. First thing I did was sort of set up a brush, which I tend to use about 4 pixels for the drawing of the map rather than edging it or anything. Just to do it with no jitter, no, and keep it spacing down to a minimum. As I go forward, I'll do some other maps as well. Other brushes. This is just me sorting that all out. Yeah, so I use a pressure based brush, so my tablet can change the thickness of the brush by how hard I press down. I use a Wacom tablet. You just testing the brush, make sure hard pressure and low pressure work as they expected. And then, as I say, first thing you do is draw a coastline. So this is a regional map on a bit of coastline between two kingdoms. So first thing to draw was the coastline to get that sorted, get that in through what I was doing. So here we go. Sort of the basic coastline, but I decided I didn't like this top bit, so just get the eraser out and redraw it quickly. Okay, so we just redraw the top of this map because we weren't happy with the way it looked, but then we go on to the next bit, which was to start doing some wave edging to the coastline so it just looked a little bit nicer. I put a single wave down the entire coastline. And I just use a edging brush, which is basically the same settings as I previously used, but with a 30% jitter and a slightly reduced opacity just so to lighten it up a bit. And then all I do is just go around the map and put a second line in. Breaking the line in place is just because I don't want it to be a continuous line. Just breaking it a bit in places just means it looks a little bit more like sets of waves. Just looks nicer on when you actually come to print it out. Brush with the brush off there. That's the first, almost the first set of waves completed. Just this last bit to do. Next would be normally be a second wave edging, but I realised quite quickly. I realised that I haven't put in any islands on the edge of the coastline. So at the moment, the coastline is just a single coastline. There's no um, um, islands off the coast, which I go, that's probably not right. So I quickly look at where I can put some islands, and a couple of attempts at drawing this first one. I don't like them, so this one's got potential, but I just modify it slightly. And I put a smaller island off it. You'll see, I do quite often. I just keep retrying until I get one I'm happy with. I then realise, oh, hang on, I'm using the wrong brush, so I quickly go back to the original brush because that was the jitter brush, so it was a bit too faint. So, oh, I'll just draw with the correct thing. At this point, I was thinking that inlet could be quite nice natural harbour, so those islands could be used quite defensively. I think that's going to be no man's land, but I thought it might be a reason why one of the kingdoms was wanting to expand. We just had another island up the top here. Give a bit of interest over there. And then I'll go back to the edging brush and go around a second time with go around the islands with one, but then do a second edge on it as well. And then we just put a second set of waves going around. Depending how close the islands are, that second wave may only actually go around the island and not go down the central piece. In this case, on this top one, it definitely does that. This gives you sort of an idea of water flow, etc. So at this point, we start just speeding it up a little because it's basically a lot more of the same. And this is just done at like 200% speed. Add that second line all the way around to add a little bit more wave effect. And as I say, once I hit the islands, do something with the islands. They say that small island probably didn't need a water effect on the inside, in between the main islands and the small one, because they were quite close together. Oh, I won't know. I did actually put it in the end. Work out where I want the it to look and go around both sides, and then do that internal bit. Almost finished with the coast now. The next thing I started thinking about was working out where I wanted to put stuff in the way of terrain and such like. So at this point I just choose some colours and start blocking in large sections on a separate layer, just so I can just hide it just for guides, and then I can hide it all later. So first off, I thought about where I wanted the mountains, which I decided up in this top corner looked like a good bet. Gave some height coming down towards the coast seemed sensible. And I'm pretty certain I've decided that this is going to be a bottom end of a continent. So I think I'm going to have a smaller kingdom to the south and a larger kingdom to the north. And figured to put a forest in to one side. But obviously, as I say, some of this area will be affected by different planes. So forest might be Shadowfell forest or Feywild. I haven't decided yet. I'm just marking down normal terrain, and then I'll modify it to fit what I want. And then I'll put a second forest just on that coastline. I wanted something to protect that inland inlet, because otherwise I'm pretty certain the kingdoms in the south would have already expanded up to it. So I needed a reason for it not to have gone up there. I figured a nice thick forest, which is definitely going to be heavily affected by one of the planes, as a good reason for them to stay out. And then looking at what else we need. Forest and hills, I figure I need something else terrain wise, so I figured I could put in a marsh to the north. Go. So another colour, different one. I just block in an area which I think I'm going to have a marsh at. My actual it's going to end up being more a delta than a pure marsh, but quickly label up the different areas. So hills, forests. This is so when I come back to it, I remember the colours. I probably would have done anyway, but it's just worth doing anyway. And then next job was to work out where I wanted the rivers. So first off, choose a colour and draw some rivers in. So you're wanting some going across the map to make it so there was definitely needed crossing points. I decided I'll make this marsh actually into a marshy delta. Thinking about where I was going to put the village, but I also wanted to put another river in across the map. Obviously that one comes in from further inland. Another river just down from the hills to join that one. Means there's either sort of 3 rivers to cross, or you've got a big straight river to cross. And next is work out where the trade route would be. So all I do on the trade route is I quickly do a brush, and all I do is I just increase the spacing. You basically get little dots. And then I can just draw that. And if I just draw that north to south, a couple of failed attempts. So once we got that path in on the final go, you've got a rough idea where all the important bits are. So next up is drawing some rivers in. I'm just sort of working out if I was happy with all this, make sure there wasn't anything else I wanted to add in, and decided there wasn't, so I decided the next thing was to start working on the actual river details rather than the quick sketches. So the way I do the rivers is, again, grab out the mapping brush and draw in down the line, down these lines, the actual route the map is going to take. So grab the mapping brush, and I don't exactly follow the blue line I put in. That was a guide, it wasn't a final, it's definitely going down this route. Wasn't happy with that second piece, so I was just redo it. What I would recommend is try and do these paths sections in small stages, because it means that you can just revert back each if you get like a section of it. I basically decided that bend then was a bit steep, so I put a slightly less of a curve on it there because it just made sense. Get down to the coastline, and then I just need to follow it back on with a second one, slightly widen it up the coastline, and just neatly follow it round. Don't have to be exact the same distance apart all the way around. Matter of fact, rivers aren't, so why should the map drawing be? And then, as before with the other areas, once I start, you've seen what I'm doing, I will just start speeding it up in a moment, so you get to see the rest, see the entire drawing, but you don't have to sit laboriously through me doing the same thing on large chunks of the map. I'm really struggling with this section, it seems, but we'll eventually get there. I try from the other side, and there we go, finally get there. Nope, fine until that last little bit, so. I really do struggle with this piece. And it's just, again, follow it all the way around as I have done with all the other pieces, and just do this more of the same. But I just like, if you guys want to watch that, that's fine. Shows you what I'm doing. But this is a couple of minute process, so I'll let you guys watch it if you want. finish off this delta, and then it's a matter of cleaning up the coastline, joining the rivers into the coastline so there isn't just a and then just finish off this last little bit of the last river going up the side. So, and once we've done the river, so there you go. That's all. That's all the original rivers in place. The ones I thought we were going to want. At this point, I go, maybe I should have had one down at this bottom area here. So I quickly grab my pen and try a few different lines to get one I like. And then just put the other edge in, and then from there, the next stage is to clean up the joins from the river to the coastline. But what I do doing that is, rather than messing around with the original layers, I will duplicate both layers. There we go. When I duplicate them, I can then merge them together, and then when I do that, I can rub both out and then just get the joins to look somewhat natural. And again on that one, got to go around all the different areas and clean them all up. Actually, I decided I didn't like this bit at all, so I basically just decided to move it slightly further down. Again, delete the area and join them together. So that was too far up, so I actually moved it. So, all that doesn't look terrible, does it? So, rivers in place, coast in place, with a few islands. Next will be the mountains and the forest, but I'll do that another time, but for now, that's it. I'll see people next time.